Hello and welcome to On the Right Track, Career Stories, a video series and podcast about real people, their real careers, and real lives. Today, I'm talking to Kaleigh Sedgewick. She's a certified public accountant. So let's listen to some of her experiences and advice. So Kaleigh, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Hi everyone. So I am a senior analyst at Brookfield in Toronto, and I've only worked here for about 5 months. So just starting off at the beginning of my career, I decided in high school I really liked numbers, and I was always interested in something that would allow me to use that analytical side with numbers, but also something that would allow me to do a lot of analysis because I really liked research and I liked writing papers and things like that. So it was really hard for me in high school to know it was going to be accounting, but I was like, okay, well, I narrowed it down to like engineering or accounting. And then I applied to both. I wasn't sure what I was going to end up doing. I got accepted to mostly accounting programs. I think I got into one engineering program, and I decided ultimately I was just going to go for business because I thought it was something I was at least a bit more interested in. I had a few family members who were in business, and I thought it opens up a lot of doors. So whatever I end up doing, there's like tons of opportunities, and it's a great path to start on. So I chose Laurier for business. And coming into first year, I didn't really have an idea of like what career paths you could get into. So I was really involved. I took as many courses as I could. I remember taking like a financial math course because I was interested in it. I took some accounting courses, marketing, um, operations, and I really liked a management accounting course I took. And I didn't really like the financial accounting course, but I decided, I'm interested in this of all my courses, so I'm just going to keep on this route. And you can get a really good designation out of it. There's the CPA designation, which is a great designation, and you can even go into finance, you can go into accounting. So it's a really good broad designation to get if you want to go into business. So I ended up taking that route, and coming into like third year, I ultimately decided not to take our co-op program, which is a program that places university students in different short-term roles. It ended up making it a bit harder to find a role coming out of school. That being said, I worked really hard. I networked a lot. I went to like as many coffee chats as I could. I spoke with a lot of people my age. And eventually I was able to get a position in a medium-sized accounting firm, which is Grant Thornton. And so I worked there for about a year, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the people. I liked the environment. I loved the work. Like, it was really long hours, but I really enjoyed the work. And then I ended up, after about a year, going to a bigger firm, which is Deloitte, which many people have probably heard of. And then I was there for 2 years. And then just recently, once I got my designation, I switched over to what we call in accounting the industry. So when you go work at a company in their accounting function rather than at Deloitte, let's say, where I'm auditing a company. So it's sort of like going from the outside in. And so that's where I'm at in my career right now. And it's been a great learning experience to try out all these different companies and see what I've liked and what I can add to the companies. And so, yeah, that's a bit about my sort of high level background.
Okay, so you've done a few things in your short career already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does a typical day look like for you?
So a typical day, I usually wake up pretty early because I like to get my day started, and I like to have like some reflection time before I start working. So I usually get up pretty early, have my coffee. Takes me about 15-20 minutes to walk into work. So then I walk over, and then my day at work is pretty busy from the time I get in till when I leave, especially if it's around like quarter end. So we work on quarters because that's when we report financial statements. And usually around quarter end, so I'll get into work. Nobody like we sometimes have a little bit of chit chat around the office, but it's fairly like if you work like by yourself well, then it's a good environment for you because you can just come in, get your work done. So I usually come in. Um, some of the tasks that I work on, I'm not sure if people will be too familiar with it, but I work on like the MD&A of the financial statements. So essentially what that is our financial statements will show like a picture of what the company is doing for that period, like how they're doing financially. And I write the MD&A management discussion and analysis at the beginning of the financial statements, which talks about management's view of how the company is doing. And so I write it up, and obviously the managers and CFO and CEO will read it and make sure they agree with it. But I take a look at all of our like account balances, and I say like, why did this change, or why did it increase or decrease, and what is our liquidity looking like? And so I sort of do that. That's an example of one task I might do. Some other things that I do would be like, we're in the private equity group, and so we own probably about like 50 companies. So I have my own set of like 10 of those companies. Other analysts would have other ones, and I will get on calls with them some days. And so like I could be on calls with them all day, just chatting about sort of their results and what's happening in the business and how they're affected by different things. And I won't get too into it, but like maybe COVID, for example, how they're, reacting to the environment right now, or yeah, that's just.
Okay, so you said there's a bit of social chit chat sometimes in the mornings. Are you
Mhm.
working primarily on your own through the day and on projects? Is it a social environment, your
It
work?
is, yeah, it is still a social environment. So we were like on a team of about 15, and we all sit together, but it is very much like everyone has their own tasks and work to do. And so it's very much like autonomous in that way.
Okay.
But what I would say about the job I had before at Deloitte in accounting is it's very team based. So you can have both in accounting. Like when I worked at Deloitte, you'll have like, let's say you're on a team of 5, you're working at a table with 5 people for 12 to 15 hours a day. So I've had that. I really liked it, but being on the other side too, it's nice to sort of get your head down, get your work done, and then have some pauses and breaks to chit chat when you want.
Okay, very interesting. Now, you just said 12 to 15 hours a day. Is that typical in your work at your stage?
Yeah, as an analyst, until you move up and sort of build, I like to say like build up the goodwill. You sort of have to prove yourself until you get to a certain point, and so you sort of just put your head down and work the hours.
Mhm.
But there are periods. The nice thing about the job is because you work really hard, and everyone works really hard, there are times where they can give you time off. So if they're like, wow, you just worked 6 days and you were working 18-hour days, go take the rest of the afternoon off or take tomorrow off. And they won't even call it vacation. Like they'll just say, take a day off in lieu. Like you're exhausted.
Okay, so how do you feel about those long hours? Is it what you expected?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, going into the industry, I knew there were going to be some long nights. Um, but it sort of becomes the norm. And as you get into your flow and you figure out how to say no to things as well, like you figure out how to build it into your life, and it ends up working out.
Okay.
It's not
And how do you
horrible.
find a balance in your personal life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm still finding it, still trying to find it.
Okay, good.
Um, but I would say like exercise is really important. I try like my morning walk to work, and then at the end of the day from work really helps me like clear my head before I go in and go in with a good headspace. And then also like taking breaks, because it's really easy to just get stuck in your work and keep working for hours on end until you get your deliverables done.
Mhm.
But it's really good to just like take breaks and clear your head. Even if it's just to go grab a coffee, I always try to like do that. I catch up with people I care about. Like those are all really important things.
Okay. Now, you said earlier that you knew you liked numbers when you were in high school. Can you talk a little bit more about how your interest in accounting, business accounting started?
Yeah. So, like I said, in high school, I really liked numbers, and I knew I liked interacting with people, and I knew I liked analysis, but I didn't know how it all was going to come together. So university was a good eye opener, and I knew I wanted to have a career that allowed me to do things I liked. Like I knew, let's say, I like to travel, and I like to do nice things, and I want to be able to afford those nice things. So I knew I wanted a career at least that would allow me to have certain flexibilities.
Hmm.
And so I thought, business opens a lot of doors and you can do well in business.
Hmm.
And it incorporates the numbers aspect. So that's like really high level why I went into business.
Okay.
And then and then accounting specifically, I got to a point in second year where you have to decide what specialization you want to do. And I had no clue. I really had no clue, but I figured the main ones were like marketing, accounting, finance, operations. There were some other small ones, but those were the big ones. And I did process of elimination. I was like, marketing, I don't really think like I need to have some sort of analytics, and marketing, like there is analytics, but it's less like black and white. So I was like, okay, marketing, no. Um, Operations, I never was really interested in. Then finance and accounting. And so those were the big ones. I was like, I really like finance and I really like accounting. So which one will I do? And then it came down to the designations I could get out of both of them. And I knew the two designations were either CFA or CPA. And I spoke to a lot of people, and everyone said that ultimately, um, with a CPA, it's easier to go into finance if you wanted to somewhere in your career rather than the other way around,
Okay.
um, because it's more of a broad designation. CFA is very specialized in finance. And so I decided, okay, well, even if I try out accounting and I realize it's not for me, then at least I have that way out, and the designation is great to have. So that's why I just picked accounting.
Okay. Was there anything that you did outside of courses that helped you realize that business and numbers was a direction, like a summer job or a co-op course? Was there
Yeah.
anything you did in
My
high
school,
school?
my high school was pretty small, so we didn't have a lot of I don't even think we had business or economics courses, so I didn't really know through high school, but I saw a lot of family members who were in business,
Hmm.
and I knew that they had all taken different paths, and they didn't necessarily, like, none of them had the same path at all, but they had all done really cool things with it.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, none of my family members have really been accountants.
Hmm.
So it was more so like friends. I had a few friends who had parents who were accountants, and I remember talking to them about why it's a good designation to get and sort of different things you can do coming out of it. Um, and I knew also it was a great career for as a woman,
Hmm.
um, for men too. But as a woman, you can take it a lot of different ways. And if you decide you want to have a family and work from home, you can even start your own business and be like a consultant accountant. So there's so many different routes you could take, which is why I thought it was like a really good one.
Very interesting. Okay, tell us something you struggled with along the way to get where you are.
So one of the items that I sort of touched on before was not doing co-op and sort of finding my first job. And it's something so many people struggle with out of university nowadays. It's really, really hard to get jobs. Um, so my biggest piece of advice going back, if I could go back in time, would be get more involved on campus. So get into as many clubs as you can like be involved in, even if you don't think it's your career path in the future. Just be involved, because it's something you can put on your resume and you can meet people, and who knows like who's going to find you a job.
Great tip.
um, Yeah, I can't stress it enough. If I could go back to school, I would be more involved.
Well, you've
And then,
certainly got far for your stage, for your age and stage. I wouldn't kick yourself at all.
yeah,
Okay, so what would you say to students about the most important skills for them to focus on developing for
skills.
business accounting?
Yeah, so huge one is presenting and communication skills. So it's really important to be able to speak in front of other people and present your ideas because you will stand out against your peers if if you're known as someone who can um, clearly explain your thoughts. And like, I'm just thinking of a specific idea at work. Like, if you have an accounting issue and you can explain it to your manager and VP and say, here's my thought process, here's my answer. It doesn't have to be the right answer, but just the fact that you presented it to them, you stand out from everyone else, because a lot of people will just say, well, what would you do? So having those communication skills are super important.
Excellent.
Um, yeah.
Okay, tell us what you would tell your younger self. I know you're very young compared to other guests I've interviewed, but what would you tell your younger self? Many students have no clue. You had an interest in numbers. You thought you might want to go in that direction. I work with a lot of students who are overwhelmed by the fact they have no clue what they want to do. So,
Yeah. What I would say, looking back, is you put so much pressure on yourself to find like the right path at the right time, and you're so young in high school that really it you can make a choice and then change your mind and you'll still be fine. Like, I could have gone into an arts program or engineering and I could have changed my mind. Like, I'm not specifically speaking about myself, but I know my brother was an engineer. He took engineering in school and then he decided he wanted to go into finance. And so he still had his engineering undergrad, but he did something else. And I know a lot of people where that happens. And it's a series of, your career is a series of choices. And so it doesn't have to be the right one at the right time. You'll figure it out.
fantastic. Okay,
Yeah.
so where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, I think I'd like to be in a manager VP role. Um, right at this moment, it's probably going to be in accounting, but I could be back in school, maybe doing an MBA or a master's of some sort. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm on my career path still, but I'll probably be traveling a bit and maybe starting a family. Who knows?
Sounds really
but
exciting.
but there will be some sort of accounting involved for sure.
Good for
So,
you.
mhm.
Okay, so one last question, and you've been extremely informative today. If you weren't in accounting, what would you be doing? Totally different
Oh,
direction.
yeah, I think there's a few different things I could have done. I always say that I might have become a teacher if business didn't work out for me, and I still could, who knows.
Hmm.
Um, I might have become a teacher just because both my parents are teachers, and I really had some great high school teachers that, like, especially I can think back to my calculus teacher, like, she was amazing. So I think, like, and she didn't even, she wasn't a teacher for her whole career. She was like an engineer and then went into teaching. And so that's why I'm like, oh, well, it's not out of
Hmm.
my, I could still do it. So that's probably what I would have done if I hadn't become an accountant.
Great. Okay, well, this has been a wonderful conversation, Kaleigh. I really appreciate your time today and your sharing of all your experiences and your insights. Have a great day today, Kaleigh. Thanks again for your time and best wishes in your new position.
Thanks
Talk to
so
you
much,
soon.
Shane. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us. If you liked the video, give us a like, and even better, subscribe. For more information, check out the links below. You'll get lots of scoop about other social media platforms, more information about our interview guests, and the services available from Right Track Education. Have a great day and best wishes to everyone.